Welcome everybody, it's that time of the week, and it is
TLF baby, till it's Fridays. I'm back, we're doing this, and it's tanks time, Mythic Plus, because it has been almost 2 months since we did our last rankings for tanks, and things have changed a bit.
2 months, Jesus.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, we gotta say all tanks are doing just fine regardless, but we did pull all the data that is possibly we can pull. As you know, the Raider.io, the subcreation, and warcraft logs. And to be fair, like the main differentiator this time around, Flame kind of said something else to this Raider.io score.
Well,
and the highest number of keys.
So listen, we always say this, that everybody's doing pretty well, and they are, but there's still differences between each, and we're going to use those differences to spread them out over a couple of tiers. So if you don't see your thing in S tier, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means, you know, something is just a slight.
It's doing 29 keys rather than 30s. You know, that's the main gist of it. Now listen, if you want to see some tanks in action played by Flame over here, you can check out twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. We do stream over there. It's mainly Flame over there, but sometimes we do some live talk show,
yeah, that's usually
podcast.
On Thursdays. You might have seen it yesterday. If not, you'll see it next Thursdays.
Well, I've been missing.
Starts where we talk about different things with you guys directly, answering your comments and having a chat about WoW, plus all the other streams about doing keys with you guys, playing
raids,
all the specs in the world, and raids as well. So you can check us at twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. You also have the schedule there, so you know when we will be going live.
It's going live. It's twitch.tv, okay, not twitch.com.
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
All right, but that being said, let's kick it off with the first spec on the menu, which is Blood Decay.
Blood
Boy,
Decay.
are we starting it off strong.
Blood Decay hasn't changed at all. It did, I don't know when the last time we looked at it from a Mythic Plus perspective, because there have been nerfs and they were a little bit stupid, but the nerfs have been kind of tempered a little bit so as to not break the spec completely and put it in the trash can.
Still,
right now, yeah, it's still S tier.
Still S tier, I feel like.
Maze balls.
I mean, we talked about this previously. Blood Death Knight was one of these tank specs that did okay, but in previous seasons it was kind of overshadowed by other specs like Prot Paladins and Vengeance Demon Hunters or what have you. And right now it's looking like it's dominating. Did we talk about the damage you can pull off? I know we can. It has its thing.
The thing was initially with Blood Decay that the tier set in conjunction with the legendary as well was getting like 100% or close to 100% uptime on Dancing Rune Weapon. Plus that also gives you stacks of strength. Initially the nerf was big, but they only nerfed the stacks of strength. So right now you still do damage. It's decent. It's probably not the highest amount of damage. It is a little bit high for a tank in my opinion, because I'm playing Pro Warrior and Pro Warrior doesn't have that much damage. But it's still good right now. You can still maintain a high uptime on Dancing Rune Weapon, which is the major, I believe, the major reason as to why Blood Decay is clearing, what, 32s right now, I think?
The highest keys.
It's pretty bonkers. I think they're kind of edging into 33s. This is because of that high uptime on Dancing Rune Weapon, which means parry. Parry is the name of the game, because you don't take damage when you parry, and that's particularly OP, which again sees how Blood Decay can actually be on top of the meta is by actually having an OP mechanic. And yeah, it's their time to shine. It's fine. Let them be in the spot.
Another very shiny spec is Brewmaster Monk. And once again, I think last time it was still in A tier. I think it remains it retains its position in A tier. Not as strong in terms of like the highest number of keys or the Raider.io score in this particular case. I mean, when we're looking at Brewmasters, we're looking at what, 3.9K.
They're about 100 to 200 points behind the top Blood Decay.
Are around the 4
yeah, if we're looking at score, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of like the performance of Brewmaster, there's everything you got over there, and it's like similar patterns, I would say, to addressing taking in damage, right? They have the stagger. Blood Death Knights have the what is it called? Will of the Necropolis.
Will of the Necropolis. That's also good. Yeah, the stagger. So basically, Brewmaster's coming to what I was hoping coming into 9.2 with the tier set is becoming an actual very strong tank. It is the second best tank, tied to another one down the list. We'll see eventually, but it is very good. Brewmaster has always had a really amazing kit, especially since the beginning of Shadowlands. The damage was really good and it didn't really fall off. And right now it's chugging chugs, kegs all over the place, man.
Yeah, plus mobility and I mean, again, when we're looking at efficiency, sure, you cannot talk about Dead Knights being super mobile, but they compensate to other departments, right? Like Brewmasters are super mobile. They have like, you know, the Mystic Touch for the melees. They have like the Ring of Peace, Solidary, Utility, and it's, you know, it's great performing. And once again, stressing this out, these are like 28s, 29s, and 30 keys talking here. So if you're playing any of these specs, you'll be absolutely fine.
You're Gucci, man. You're Gucci.
Next up, we have the Guardian Druid. I mean, Guardian Druid has had its moment in the spotlight. I think last patch we had the Ravenous Frenzy situation where it was a little bit too much, but this doesn't mean
it's still the same season. Yeah, the same Ravenous.
It doesn't mean it's like it's gone or whatever, but just the other specs have taken, I would say, a little bit more higher ground in terms of like the number of keys, the highest number of keys, and you can see it from the IO scores, because like the highest rated Guardian Druid right now is out around 3.7
something, I think, but it depends. It might change by the time you watch this because people are pushing keys.
Oh, for sure.
The Guardian is basically having the similar issues that Blood used to have, where the damage output is not that high. Obviously, you know, defensive wise, you can probably still knock it up a little bit, but in terms of damage, if you're outside of Incarn and Ravenous Frenzy, it's pretty low, and that will matter once you get into the 30 keys. But once you do pop your Ravenous and your Incarn, Jesus, that's actually a problem as to why I believe that they're not buffing Bear, because if they
will be broken.
I mean, you've seen Bears with the both cooldowns, they do like 40k on 2 packs. That's nuts.
I know. This is the thing, right? It's a very tight line if you like work and tuning a little bit towards the other side of the spectrum, like a little bit more powerful, it will just totally make it broken. But as it is now, if you're playing a Bear Druid, you can do up to like 26s, no problem, 27s even. So it's a great spec, and it's one of like the easiest tanks to pull off.
It's a good beginner tank. Yeah, C tier is kind of where it's at right now. Now C tier pulling like 26, 27s as well, so that's pretty good. So don't particularly look at the C tier. Just think about it that it's a couple of tiers behind, you know, Brewmaster and Blood Decay.
Oh yeah. Next up, Captain Paladin, Prot Paladin, man. Once again, I feel like each of these specs have been in the spotlight #1 for a couple of seasons back in the past, but now Prot Paladin is still looking good. Not as good as it used to be. I remember a time where Prot Paladin, is it still the highest damage dealing bastard out of the bunch?
It's very close, because if you remember, at the end of 915, Prot Paladin was the king.
Oh yeah.
And some of the main reasons, because we did have a Prot Paladin podcast, some of the main reasons as to why that was is because Prot Paladin was using a lot more stats and getting defensives out of all the stats, so it could stay there and take more damage. Doesn't matter how many stats and damage reduction you have. If you just have infinite parry like Blood Decay, it's never going to compete with that. However, baseline Prot Paladin always had massive damage, and it's still the case. It's still pumping. It's likely that it could do more damage than a Blood Decay, although, and that's, you know, without like the major buff of a tier set. The tier set is good, don't get me wrong, but it's almost not the same as Blood Decay, even though they kind of function similarly.
No, I mean, one thing that Prot Paladins do bring on the table is like they have a solution for like everything. The Prot Paladin kit is like built around
Batman utility, but the Captain America Batman utility build.
Yeah, Captain America and Batman combined, you know, with a little bit of like a light fantasy, you know, that's Prot Paladin. Not the easiest tank to pull off, but once you do, it's super fun to play. Right now, it's in a B tier, and again, this is because of the keys that Prot Paladins are logging and having data for, and also looking at the differences between like the rated.io scores. I think Prot Paladins are sitting somewhere around 3.8, 3.9.
3.7-ish, kind of like in between the Bears and the Brewmasters.
Yep.
They're doing decent keys. It's most likely that the top tanks are switching from the Prot boys to, you know, the Blood boys.
Yeah, they want to push higher and higher as we get closer to the end of the season, because, you know, we have another season 4. I don't know if you noticed, but that's gonna change some things. All right, Flames main.
Ooh, Prot Warrior. Ooh, Prot Warrior. Actually, I don't know exactly how it was in the last one, but I know at the beginning of the season, Prot Warrior is definitely seen as the worst performing tank.
Oh, I remember that.
It's pretty beefy. So Prot Warrior is currently sitting next to its brother in arms, the other shield boy,
boys on B
Prot
tier.
Paladin, the B tier, the harder to play tanks. My opinion, change my mind. Prot Warrior is good. Prot Warrior is good and is definitely very underappreciated and underlooked because it has some stigma attached to it that the tier set in combination with the Necro Lord's Covenant and Legendary kind of offset some of the stigma, and that is the self-sustain. You have a lot of Ignore Pains, and even though Ignore Pain, I've said it multiple times, is kind of shit on its own, when you have a crap ton of it, it turns out it's actually pretty good.
It compensates.
Not to mention, yeah, you have the banner playstyle, which is what you should be playing as a Pro Warrior, which ideally you kind of want to maintain it close to 100% uptime, meaning that you have 100% uptime on rage generation, also 20 to 23% bonus strength, which is really good. Pro Warrior is still suffering in the AoE damage department, although it can pump massive damage depending on how you pull. It doesn't come close to Prot Paladin and Blood Decay. However, in single target damage, it's probably the best damage dealer out of all of the tanks.
Really?
Yeah, the execute buffs that we had a couple of weeks ago, like on Tyrannical, Pro Warrior is gonna fucking melt those bosses. I'm talking about 10 to 11k DPS single target, which is pretty good for a tank, all things considered. So don't sleep on your Pro Warrior, boy. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, and if you are healing a Pro Warrior, remember that it's a difficult spec, so if the person is taking a lot of damage, it's likely that there might be messing up some things on the prots, and not the spec is actually bad.
It's all fine and dandy. And last on the list, the Vengeance Demon Hunter. This was the crown jewel of I think season 1 of Shadowlands.
Season 1 for sure, yeah.
Yeah, there was like I'm not placing it in D tier, guys. I just clicked on it. Don't worry about it. It's not a D tier spec. I mean, the same arguments apply for the Vengeance Demon Hunters as they did in the past. You know, super mobile, super fast. You know, AoE damage is ridiculous AoE damage. I don't know if Prot Paladin is better in terms of like the AoE.
That's a very good point.
I think they're very close in that, but what Demon Hunters have like better than Prot Paladin is just the speed of how they can do things. Prot Paladins are a little bit slower on gathering the packs and, you know, moving with the packs. Vengeance Demon Hunters, on the other hand, can do that way more efficiently. So this is why Vengeance, as opposed to last time,
bump it up.
It's A tier. It used to be S tier, but the differentiators,
it's still good, though.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean,
it's for a couple of weeks it used to be the second best tank. Right now it's actually very closely tied to Brewmaster. They're both sitting on the second place as the best tanks in Mythic Plus. And like you mentioned as well, it's likely, although I am yet to confirm this 100%, because Blood is in a different world of its own, but it's likely the best AoE damage dealing tank, which is one of the main reasons why it's so high. The other reason I believe so far is probably because of the demonic debuff, the magic damage 5% increase for all those distros, and the mages, by the way, because distros gonna be
mages. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can talk about each utility situation for Mythic Plus on all of these tanks, and yeah, you can have a strong argument for both Brewmaster and Vengeance Demon Hunter because of the debuffs. But when you look at Blood Decay, I mean, you know, the overall performance of the spec is just outmatching all the utility that can be had. This doesn't mean, once again, that any of these specs are a bad choice in your Mythic Plus group, or even Pug group for that matter. Sure, some of the people that play Prot Paladin or Prot Warriors don't have the necessary, I don't know, time invested to master these specs, and you can have a hard time.
They're particularly more difficult. There's a bigger learning curve.
But overall, all of these specs are pushing at least 26 and above keys, with the S and A tiers going on to around the 30 and 31 range easily. So
and hey, to point that out a little bit more, we're probably gonna have a graph up on the video right now.
Subcreation, right?
Yeah, the subcreation. So if you look at, I think depending on when you watch this, on the last week's affixes and overall tank performance, you can definitely see Blood still in S tier. Pretty much everybody else is in A tier.
Yeah.
In terms of keys that are clearing them week by week on a week-by-week basis, they're very close. The tanks, outside of Blood, which is a little bit nuts, the tanks have hardly been ever more balanced than they have been now. And of course, throughout the entire expansion of Shadowlands, the tanks have been pretty well balanced. So whatever you want to play, pick your poison, take what you want to enjoy and what you want to master, and get it out there, and you're gonna do just fine.
Yeah. You know who else do just do that? That's always fine. Our Patreons, who are like the finest folks in the world for supporting this content that we do here each and every week. Remember, guys, you're supporting this show right here, the TLFs, the class guides on Sundays, all of the MoCast live clips that we do and edit and put on the channel as well, the MoCast podcast, obviously. So there's a lot of content that you're supporting, and we love you for it. If you guys weren't there, then a lot of this wouldn't be happening. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, if there's anybody out there who has been pondering on the idea that maybe you can become a Patreon.
I mean, you would be supporting all the content because it is a little bit trying times for YouTube content creators when it comes to World of Warcraft. You can look at the link down below to our Patreon page. You will be supporting us, and any contribution is mostly appreciated. Of course, it doesn't matter, but there are a couple of tiers that you might find interesting with a couple of goodies that are suited for your needs.
Get them. And thank you for watching the video.
Appreciate it.
Have yourself a great weekend ahead. It's summertime. Go drink a mojito and relax.
And get a tan like he.
Yeah, like he.
Boom.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.